What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're gonna take a look at the Zero trigger from Blackout Defense. Now I have done a ton of trigger reviews. They're pretty in-depth. We use these little graphs and a jig and all this stuff. So if you're new to my channel, stay tuned, you're gonna like this. I'll post a link in the description below to my trigger playlist. It's gonna follow much of the same format, although today we're gonna focus just on this one. But before we get started, if you're watching this video before July 6th at 12 noon Eastern Time 2021, I'm actually giving away 5 of these. So Blackout Defense sent me a bunch of them to give away to you guys. There's a link in the description below. It'll say something like giveaway video or something like that. It's a real short video, go watch that. Super simple to enter. Check it out and then come back here and finish this video. Now just a little bit about Blackout Defense. They did reach out to me. They obviously provided these for the giveaway and for me to review. All right, they liked the format of my previous videos, and he even told me I learned some things based on comments in your videos and things that you covered that people find valuable or not in a trigger. So they actually kind of modeled some of this after the feedback that I gave in previous videos, as well as you guys in the comments. Now, Blackout Defense is out of Arizona. They're owned by a husband and wife team, both former law enforcement, and they put a lot of attention to detail into these things. So we're gonna get it on the tabletop here in just a second and show you. A lot of thought goes into these. And I'm gonna show you some, like a Timney trigger, for example, that, in fact, sits right here in a drawer because I just don't like it, and I'll go into why and what this did to solve the issue I had with the Timney trigger. Here you can see that 3-pound trigger on the left and the 4.5-pound trigger on the right. This is that MP3 finish, all right, and this is that black nitride finish. Now, it is an aluminum housing. It is A2 tool steel for the trigger and the disconnector, and the hammer is an S7 tool steel, all right? Now, one thing about these are not designed for an AR-10 platform, all right? You're not gonna wanna use this if you're considering it for like a 7.62 by 39 rig or a 308 rig, something like that, all right? The hammer just does not have enough mass to reliably set off those bigger primers. Now, that being said, not this specific one. I have the one that I use still installed. This is actually one of the giveaway ones. But I did run this in my MK47. If you're not familiar with the platform, it's 7.62 by 39. It ran beautifully with Wolf ammo. Had no problems whatsoever. But then I used some Tula ammo, and it did not work so well, all right? It had a lot of light primer strikes. Again, this was not designed for that, all right? If you are looking for a trigger for an AR-10 platform, wait. They are coming out with one that's designed specifically for that, with more mass to the hammer and a heavier spring. There's you a look at the inside there. Now notice that this is red Loctited, both of the screws there, as well as this one on the bottom. We'll get into that one in a second. But this one here, if you will focus, is also arc welded, all right? You can see there's a little spot weld right there. So they're making every effort to keep this trigger from failing on you. Now notice these 2 channels right here, all right? If you're not familiar with these drop-in style triggers, a lot of the higher end ones are gonna have these 2 set screws that you see on the bottom right here. All right, let's demonstrate these set screws. Listen to this. Hear all the wobble in there, all right? If I, look at that, just turning it down, you can see this, oops. You can see that pin fell out with no problems, all right? So if I come over the top here now, and I just tighten down those 2 little set screws, they are putting downward pressure against the bottom of the receiver right here, pushing up against these 2 set screws, and now there's no rattle, no wobble. Those pins would not come out even if I wanted them to. And also there's a set of what I like to call chaser set screws. There's another little tiny set of set screws. You can see them in the packaging right there. And basically, once you have these bottom set screws where you want them, you chase them with those other set screws and just, again, a little bit of pressure right down on the top, and it will secure this and never back out on you. If you want to remove them, simply take the top chaser screws out and then loosen these bottom set screws, and you can pull this trigger group right out. All right, let's talk about some problems that this solved versus the Timney trigger that I refuse to put back in another gun. And believe me, I've put it in many, many rifles over the years. All right, notice the hammer spring and those 2 little tails right there and right there, way down inside of there. Notice how they stop short of those set screw holes. And by contrast, look at the tails of the hammer spring on this Timney trigger, and it goes right over top of those set screw holes. Effectively, to put this in there, you got to get a little tiny screwdriver, you got to push that hammer spring over to the side, and then you got to try to get your chaser screw down in there while holding the hammer spring over to the side. It is a huge pain in the butt. I hate installing this trigger, and that's why it sits in a drawer now. Blackout Defense was able to solve that by having those clips short and still not losing any of the power of the hammer itself. Now this is probably easier to show on the MP3 version of the trigger, all right? Although both of them have what I'm about to mention. So notice that little highlight right there, that edge, all right? That is actually kind of a beveled or a contoured edge. It is not a hard, sharp corner. I have triggers from other manufacturers that after prolonged use without gloves will literally cut into the meat of your finger, all right? This one does not. So they have, he told me, they have one lady who works there and her sole job is smoothing out all of these rough edges. That's all she does, and she does it by hand. So they put a lot of care into the fit and finish and polish on these triggers. Before we get into the jig and the pull weights and all that stuff, if you have one of their previous versions of the trigger and yours is not arc welded where the disconnector nut is right there, they will fix it for you for free. Just reach out to them and they will take care of it. He said they haven't really had any problems, but just to prevent any future issues, that is now a standard that they are applying to all triggers. So if you have one of those earlier ones, reach out and they'll take care of it. In this particular trigger right here, I have just under 500 rounds on this one. It was in my MK47 first, and I did 222, 223 rounds, something like that. But as I mentioned with that tool ammo, I had quite a few failures to light off that primer, light primer strikes. Once I used wolf ammo, no problems whatsoever. I took that trigger and moved it into this platform, 5.56, and ran Lake City ammo through it, which also has notoriously hard primers, not one single failure. Again, AR-15 is what it was designed for, 5.56, not necessarily designed for 7.62, 308, anything like that. So no problems with hard primers in the correct platform. All right, and now we're gonna test these in what I feel makes my videos a little unique from most of the trigger reviews out there. I'm gonna put these back in that jig. If you're interested in that jig, there's a link in the description below. And I'm gonna put this little piece of paper right behind the trigger group, all right, with the bow of the trigger on the 0. Now, it's hard to see. I'll get it in focus once we get it in the jig, but this is in millimeters, 0.2468. And what we're gonna look at is we're gonna see if there's any take up on this trigger, all right? So when it's all locked in, safety selector, is there any take up? Is there any creep once you hit that wall? Does it break cleanly? I'll talk to you about how I feel the break is. We're gonna look at how much over travel it has after the break, all right? And I'll break it down for you in millimeters. And then we're gonna see how many millimeters it takes on reset, all right? So let's get it in the jig. All right, here we go. We have our graph underneath here. You have 0.2468 millimeters. We're gonna apply some rearward pressure on the trigger here to see if there was any take up. There is not. There is no movement on the trigger there. Let's go ahead and check out our break. It's about a 2 millimeter break, very clean. Reset. So almost right back to 0 on the reset. 2 millimeter break and no over travel on that trigger. It stops cleanly at the back. This is the 4.5 pound trigger. Let's see how it does on the gauge here. Four pounds, 6.1 ounces. 4 pounds, 4.7 ounces. 4 pounds, 5 ounces. And here is the 3 pound version. All right, let's make sure there's no take up on this. There is no movement on that trigger. Let's test out the brake. Very, very clean brake. Let's check out our reset. Pretty much the same as the previous one. About a 2 millimeter brake, no over travel. And then just shy of 0 on a full reset. Let's test our pull weight. 3 pounds, 4 ounces. 3 pounds, 3.8 ounces. 3 pounds, 2.6 ounces. So that's it, guys. I know that was a lot of information, but before you go, I also have a 10% off promo code, all right, in the description below. It's HW10. There is a link. Now, I can't link directly to Blackout Defense because YouTube frowns upon linking to people who manufacture firearms, and they do make some really, really cool shit. So if you want to go see those, link in the description below will take you to my website where you can then get all that information. With that 10% off code, it brings this trigger under $200. That is crazy, all right? The Timney trigger, my Elftman triggers, my Geisley triggers are all well north of $250, and I really can't think of anything that they do that this one doesn't. In fact, this one has some innovation that many of those do not, all right? So for under $200 with that promo code, man, that is a solid deal. And last but not least, don't forget that giveaway. If you're watching this video before July 6th, 2021 at noon Eastern time, there is still time to enter. Link in the description below. Go enter. Thanks for watching, guys. If you did like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Lots more videos to come. I appreciate you watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.